Just a moment, please. We are ready to start in 1 minute, please. Maybe we can get started now. Hopefully along, along the way, we will have more students joining in. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. We are close to the end of this third week of our MBA Summit. Very, very excited. We have had a fantastic week with great conferences and workshops throughout the week. And today, we are sure that it won't be the exception. We have the privilege to have Arman Amin with us. Thank you, Arman, for being with us. You will see in a moment a short bio of Arman, but he is basically an international visionary and main advocate of all the idea of moonshots. That is the topic of today. We will have also a moonshot talk in the afternoon. So today the track is around this great idea of having this thought called moonshots to impulse to a greater level projects, visions, ideas, strategies. But I think Arman will perfectly put that forward to us. Thank you, Arman, for being with us. And let me please show first a video of with your highlights. Thank you, Arman. Thank you very much. Arman, the floor is yours. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you very much, Eric, and everyone else helping out. Brief introduction that's not written. My name is Arman. As Eric mentioned, I've been working with Bill and Tamara on a project called Moonshots, and we've been bringing it to universities and schools, clubs around the world. And it's something that's really exciting just to explore. And although Bill can't be with us today, he's currently on a flight. We do have a video prepared from him. He's going to walk us through really what moonshots are, just to really break down how the morning's going to go. And it's similar in the evening as well, if you can't make for the full morning. He's going to break down in probably around 18 minutes or so, what Moonshots mindset is, how it's applied to different industries around the world, Fortune 500 companies, some of the largest companies in the world. And also, we're going to walk through an exercise of personally one of my favorite tools that we use at Moonshots to really be able to explore the long term and be able to differentiate different projects along the sort of timeline 10, 15 years out into the future. So I believe we actually have the video. Jonathan, you have it primed, ready to go? Perfect. Yeah. So. Excellent. So once that rolls, I'll take over afterwards, and I'll walk us through the presentation, or rather the exercise. So take it away.
Moonshot organizations. Before we go much further, let's talk really first about what a moonshot organization is. It's all about the long term. This is a direct quote from Jeff Bezos back in 1997 in his first letter to shareholders. And what he laid out was this idea that in order to be an innovative organization, in order to change the world, to create huge value and huge returns, both for shareholders, who he was speaking to, and to the customers who are going to have to buy his material, he had to have his entire company, his culture, his entire operation focused not on the near-term profits, not on mid-term growth, not just on research, but the long term, always looking for new things. I'm on the left. I've spent the last 30 years in Silicon Valley, working in companies large and small, from Apple Computer to Daimler-Benz to Kodak. On the right, you'll find our colleague Arman. He's going to lead the second part of the program. Today's program is split up into two parts. In the first half, you're going to hear from me a lot, but we're going to try and keep it fast. We're going to talk about who are Moonshot leaders, what do they do in their organizations, and how can you begin to ask questions like them. In the second part, we're going to do a very hands-on practical approach, a tool that Arman, my colleague, is going to teach you. This is a tool that we use with companies day in and day out. We use with students, we use with executives, we use it all around the world. It's a very practical tool. You're going to like it. Moonshots have become a business model. In a recent article in Barron's, which is a financial magazine from the United States, Bill Gross, who's an investor and inventor from Southern California, was quoted as saying, "The long term is where all of the wealth in green is going to be created." Sure, there are near-term opportunities in green. Green financing is going into things like EV cars and new types of cement, new types of steel, new types of energy efficiency. In the growth phase, he sees that coming next. We're already seeing an untold amount of wealth being put into new businesses, new customers, new markets. Research, of course, is coming down the pipeline, whether it's industrial research, whether it's coming from government support, or whether it's coming at the university. But he believed that we hadn't even seen the beginning of where things are going to change. And this is where the massive return is going to be. So this long-term viewpoint, this moonshot model, is now becoming a dominant type of business model that all companies and teams can work toward. The business community is paying attention to moonshots. As you can see in this small sample of articles, all from the last week, the business press is paying attention. So if we start over on the left, Honeywell, a classic company, is being quoted in Barron's as the Apple computer of quantum computing. That's high praise, but it also says that quantum computing, which doesn't really even exist today at the product level, is going to be the kind of thing that Honeywell can use to ride to huge wealth and dominant positions. At the bottom, you can see Barron's is talking about Boom, and it's a horrible headline, but what it comes down to is Boom is a startup focused on the very long term, really looking at how do they do supersonic jets that use sustainable fuel. Now, today, none of us can fly those, and even in the growth phase, who's investing in new markets for it, that's pretty far out. But Boom, with the long view, has already been able to convince United to join it in this long view. United is a very practical company. United focuses on profitability and growth, and the research they're looking at right now to pull in these new ideas is coming from an organization like Boom. So between the two of them, Boom and United actually have a very long-term view of sustainable supersonic, and people are paying attention to them and looking at them. Rob Report, if you don't recognize it, is a magazine about wealth. In the upper right, we have Ford Motor Company, a classic company who came to the electric vehicle business late. Instead of taking a first mover advantage, they've decided to take a fast follower game. Both are completely viable. Whatever strategy you take is independent of your having a long view. They decided to take the long view by being a fast follower, and now they've decided to really make a big bet. They took their marquee brand, which is the Ford Mustang, and decided to make it one of its first EV cars. And to pay off, they've actually seen the bet prove itself out by seeing the electric drivetrain, the electric Mustang, is now being produced at a higher rate than the petrol Mustang. Moonshot leadership is also becoming a topic discussed in universities and in research settings. So in these two sample pieces, one from Harvard Business School, the other from MIT Sloan's Business School, they're looking at what does it take to create a leader who can lead a moonshot organization. In HBR's piece, it was inventors. And what they meant by inventor was the talent, the skills, the mindset that went into a leadership. Who was an inventor by nature? Who rallied his team around new ideas? Who had her team make small bets, knowing that if the bet pays off, she and her team can make larger bets? Who looked not just to invention as an end goal in itself, ideas into research, but as something that could lead to new products, new growth, new potential, and ultimately into profits. And as HBR's research showed, inventor mindset, this moonshot mindset of trying new things, reaching for new ideas, trying to put it into practice, that led to better innovation in companies. At MIT Sloan, they actually looked at this other feature we'll talk about in a second, which was curiosity. And they found that these leaders who really created massive change and massive value for both their employees, their customers, and their investors had this insatiable curiosity. They were always curious. So the example that most of us would recognize is this CEO of a small cell phone company who would always walk down to the lab of his designer, Johnny, and say to him, hey, I've got this new idea. I heard something the other day. What have you heard? What have you got on that table there? Who's been coming in and talking to you? Where do you think we could go next? And this is the kind of skill that you can bring back to your organization. Curiosity can push a team forward. Curiosity can help you find new markets. Curiosity can help you say, I think that bet might pay off if we showed it to customers in a slightly different way. So having a long-term view, insatiable curiosity gives you the ability to constantly be bringing in a fresh new view to the company. Turning to a couple of executives who have this long view, the first one I'd like to look at is Laura Deming. So Laura is the founder of what's called the Longevity Fund. If you haven't heard of it, it's a venture fund that's focused on really the long term. It's focused on solving longevity, long life, maybe perpetual life as an investable business. So she's got a very interesting view. She decided to focus on longevity because it's the biggest opportunity she could find in the world. And going alongside that, when you have the long view, when things haven't paid out yet, a lot of fear. And she says, look, it's still an early field. There's a lot of things we haven't figured out, and a lot of things will fail. This gets back to the curiosity. This gets back to some of the things that will happen when you take a long view. You're always looking for new teams, new ideas, new opportunities, and you're going to bet on them. You have to practice, how do I invest in the long view, knowing that it might not pay off for a little bit of time. Now, she's an investor. She doesn't take the entire long view in the sense that she isn't working on profitability today. She's not looking at satisfying her existing customers and growing her marketplace. But in the ecosystem, she would be a moonshot leader because she's investing for the long view, and she's working to find the next phase to hand off to. Another founder who you may not recognize by name, but I'm sure you recognize his products, is a group called LVMH. Now, this was a company founded decades ago in France, which is now one of the largest luxury goods product companies in the world. What he set out to do when he created this long view was to set almost impossible goals for his teams. So as he said in the early days, when he was just one small factory, not the behemoth they are today, he said to his team, we're going to create the first global luxury group. And this was ambitious, but it galvanized the team, and we started to build. By setting almost impossible goals, both near, mid, and long term, he had the ability to hire just absolutely astounding people. And this ability to bring amazing people to yourself by creating a vision-led program, but also showing how the stepping stones are going to get you there. Where is our profitability today? What are our growth markets? Where are we investing in potential new ideas, new teams, new products, new services, new technologies? Where are we investing? And then finally, where are we getting our new ideas from? What new things are we looking at? How would we grow and change in ways we've never even imagined? Providing these types of questions and opportunities for your employees brings the best people to you. Another moonshot leader I don't think any of us needs introduction to is Jeff Bezos. So this is actually chosen from Jeff's final letter to his employees. He said to his employees when he retired, in hindsight, invention is the root of our success. So keep investing. And don't despair when ideas look crazy. Remember to wander, and let curiosity be your compass. So you can recognize that he's still got the long view, but he's also added a little bit more language. When you have the truly long view and you're looking out way out over the horizon, sometimes people will tell you you're looking at crazy ideas. As Bezos has said, that might be the thing that creates success. If you think about Amazon, they started out as nominally a book publisher and marketplace. And now they're one of the largest, most profitable cloud computing companies in the world, something that didn't even exist when they set the company up. That would have been a crazy idea to talk about. But when they were wandering, when they were being curious about what was going to help them succeed, they began to see new opportunities that maybe they could turn into products. So they tried things. So back to, as well, the MIT Sloan piece, be curious, curiosity. Here you have a fairly successful, proven CEO who says take the long view and be curious. The last CEO we'll talk about, you may not know him by name, but you will definitely know the company. Logitech is a Swiss-American company that creates small attachments to your computer, some of the most famous which originally were mice, and during COVID was probably the camera that you've tried desperately to buy to put on top of your computer to make you look better on the screen. Logitech's seen explosive growth in the last year around the video camera, but they go back decades. And along the way, they've actually built a model of how do they change the game. The way they do it is through a three-part piece. They say, look, we're going to go look over the horizon. We're going to try and see how we can change things. And in doing so, we're going to plant seeds. We're going to go and collect seeds. We're going to wander. And once we've wandered and found these seeds, we're going to try and grow them. And we don't actually know where the seeds are going to go. We have small teams working on them. They might be new categories, or they might be a new way of entering a category. But they're new, they're novel, they're unknown. Those are going to drive down into the plants. The plants are going to be what we try and grow. And ultimately, hopefully, those seeds into plants, into trees, will provide the company with a profit center that it can begin to cultivate and begin to go and wander around looking for new seeds in order to change the game again. So if we look at Moonshot Leadership, we look at a handful of things. First, focus on the long term. Long term means you're going to change the world. You're not playing within the game that everyone else has already defined. You're not the next iPhone. You're already going to change the game and say what comes past that. You're not the next Tesla. You're not the next anything. You're the new. You're completely trying to change. And in order to do that, we hope you'd be looking for impactful opportunities. Impactful means it's going to go global, means it's going to change the world for the better, means it's going to touch everybody. Think about the companies and the products that have really changed the world over the last 30 or 40 years, and you begin to realize the kind of impact they have. We use that word. One bias I would add is if you're going to look for impact, I would hope that you do it to make the world a better place. There's a lot of companies out there that make products that ultimately don't help anything, yet they do have a large footprint. Moonshot leaders help their teams by giving them almost impossible goals, and along with that, the stepping stones to get there. They show the team that looking for crazy ideas, wandering is a good thing. The curiosity will be rewarded as ideas are brought back and nurtured. New bets, new seedlings, things we can try. That along the way to the impossible goals, we're going to try and grow into new markets with new customers. Creating a culture of imagination is one of the biggest values we found. Back to the invention metaphor, back to curiosity, you're seeing a lot of words that go far past creativity, just coming up with new ideas. Instead, you want to give your team the ability to imagine. Imagine the world after they've changed it. And finally, we'd want you to look at how to shrink the investment horizons gap. Now, you haven't seen me mention this so far because this is actually what we're going to work on with you today, and Arman's going to lead you through this task. But as an executive who's focused on the long term, who's building a moonshot mindset, who's building a moonshot culture, understanding how to close the investment horizons gap is probably going to be the most valuable tool you can bring back to your organization. Both understanding what horizons are, how they're investing in them, and how do you segue between the investments, and what are the kind of things that you do in each different horizon. Real quickly, here's some of the questions that Arman's going to have you asking throughout today and that you want to take back to your team. Moonshot leaders ask, how are we building a first-in-class talent pipeline? Where are we getting our best people? Near, mid, and far. Where are we wandering to find new seeds? Where are we looking for crazy ideas? Where are we making big bets? Where are we looking to really change the game that we're working in? How are we investing across horizons? And we'll get to that a little bit more with Arman. How are we staying ahead of our customer? How are we making sure that the customer looks to us for new things, for surprise, for delight, for solving needs that they didn't even know they had? Not for solving problems that they have today, but for really taking them into whole new places. And finally, and this is probably the most important question, and it's to you, who in our organization owns our long-term mandate? Every company around should have a long-term focus. Maybe you don't know how to get there today. Maybe you're focused much more on getting that new product out the door or finding that new customer or trying to convert that piece of seminal research into profitability. But that's always with a long-term view because there's always something new coming. So who owns this? Is it the board? Is it the CEO? Is it you? Is it the entire company? And with that, I'm going to start handing off to Arman. The final piece I'm going to introduce is the Horizons model that he's going to walk you through and show you how to use it. The goal is to help you build the moonshot mindset, build a moonshot ability, knowing that building moonshots is an infinite game. If you don't recognize the phrase infinite game, it's a strategic model. It says that every strategic decision, which can give you a competitive advantage, can help you create a moat, can help you create new profitability or find new customers, is simply the next step. After that, there'll be other decisions you can make, large, small, that are going to affect your future. So when you have a long-term mindset, every decision is played within this idea of an infinite game. So the model is fairly simple. We have profitability. Profits are the near term. Products go here. Things that we know how to sell and make money off of. Those are very important because they drive our business. They let us look for growth. Growth are things that we know we can put out there. We're very close to market. We're either going to go after existing customers, we're going to look for new customers, we're going to look into new markets that already exist. Growth helps us look for and drive profitability. The next horizon are the experiments we're trying. Depends on the type of company you're in. Maybe these are wholly new types of product that you've never put into market before. Maybe these are new technologies. Maybe these are new services. Maybe your team is actually inventing a whole new way of doing something. But experiments is really a class in that you make bets on them. You're not sure if the bets are going to pay off, so you have to have a model of making small bets on completely crazy new ideas to try and prove them out and say, well, where would we take them next? And as you progress through these bets, making bigger and bigger bets, at some point, those will hand off to growth. You actually have it in a place where you can put it in front of a customer as a potential product. And ultimately, you would have a model where you could bet on this is going to be our next profit driver. So what you're beginning to hear me talk about is how, while I've got these horizons drawn as lines, and we've separated the model into profits, growth, experiments, and imagination, this is the investment horizon that you need to be working with. The gap is how do you close the extreme imagination with your next profitable business. So let me go to imagination. This is an oftentimes forgotten part of long-term, but it's critical. Where are our new ideas coming from? Which ideas should we be moving forward? Have we invested in the right talent to find and bring those new ideas forward? Do we have the position to take new crazy ideas to the customers? Do our customers look to us for new world-changing ideas? This is what inhabits the imagination horizon. And once you've gotten good at working in all four horizons and segueing between each one, handing off crazy ideas into small bets, turning those into big bets that can turn into growth potential into sustainable profits, and doing it continuously, you've really mastered this long-term mindset. You've mastered the moonshot mindset. So with that, let me hand you off to Arman, and he's going to walk you through a really thrilling and, I'll be honest, very powerful tool that will help you take the moonshot idea back to your organization.
All right. Thank you very much, Virtual Bill, for joining us. I'll share my screen. Let me share a portion of my screen here. First off, before I continue, were there any questions anyone would like me to answer? I'll be happy to just shout it out. I'll answer anything.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Perfect. And is everyone able to see my screen all right?
It's cool.
Perfect. Perfect. So as Bill was mentioning, and as we took from that Bezos quote, it's all about exploring the long term. When you're using this tool and you're using this horizon map, you're not just looking at what works today, but you're planning 10, 15 years down the future and really imagining what that future could be. So working from the fourth horizon, imagination, backwards, it's about really imagining and envisioning the impossible. And as large and audacious as that sounds, it's ultimately something that helps you really engage with these ideas that are so far out there and ultimately and slowly build them back so that you know where to start today. To use that Logitech example, you're looking at seeds. You're looking at what seeds you can start potentially planting, leading into experiments, which are long term, but there's something that's testable. It's something that exists and is potentially tangible. It's tangible. It's new technologies that allow you to deliver new products, new services to future customers. May not necessarily be today, but it's something that's going to be coming up for your company. Moving back to the second horizon, which is growth, this is where you're looking for midterm growth opportunities. You're looking for new opportunities that help you deliver these new to your customer services and products. And ultimately, in the first horizon, horizon one, you have these near-term profit, profit products and services. These are new solutions and new products that you're delivering to customers today. And this sounds crazy. It sounds wild. It doesn't sound like a lot of companies use this, but I can definitely assure you that this is something that a lot of companies do actually use. One quote I personally love, those unfamiliar, Mark Zuckerberg is the CEO, founder of Facebook. He had this quote back in 2016 where he said, I think we can all underestimate how much the world can change in 10 years. And when you're looking at the movement of technology from 10 years ago to today, what you're using today and what's commonplace today and accepted today almost seems like it would be science fiction if you were to look back 10 years ago. So behind him is actually Facebook's 10-year roadmap. It was a tool that they introduced back in 2016, and this was actually an updated version of it in a 2018 F8 conference. And I have, I transcribed it over here so it's a little bit easier to read. Mark's not standing in front of it. And ultimately what it is, it's looking at Facebook's current products, areas where they're identifying growth, and things that they're experimenting with, things that are, not quite there, not quite set in stone, but it's still something they're exploring. So in their products, really think of that, that's what's making them a profit. You have Facebook and Instagram. These are platforms used by billions of people on the daily. And this is really a product for a consumer to use. Areas of growth, you're seeing tools within these products like Marketplace, Facebook Workplace, which is essentially like a internal Facebook that you could use for your company. The search that they have on these platforms, videos, groups, WhatsApp, which is gaining a lot of traction, as well as Messenger. These are areas where they can identify growth and they can build it for this future customer as they're using it. And then when you look way off to the right and you're looking at experiments, you're seeing things like connectivity, where you have satellite and high altitude technology. I personally, when I first saw this, I didn't know Facebook actually did that. You have platforms like the Oculus platform, their virtual reality headsets. You have social presence. So, how do you maintain that social interactivity in a virtual or augmented reality space? You have standalone VR headsets like the Oculus Quest, AR tech connected to a PC, and these are all different kinds of technologies that they're working on and hoping to build towards growth and then ultimately deliver as products. You also have these long-term artificial intelligence plays. Facebook has some of the largest artificial intelligence uses in a platform that I've ever seen personally. And they have things in AI vision, language, different tools for their developers to use, and really unsupervised learning and reinforced learning for their AI and machine learning algorithms. So these are things that are far off, and they're not products that you can just download and use on your phone, but it's technologies that they're hoping to bring forward to growth and then ultimately towards profit. And it's I had these three horizons here, but in a fourth horizon, this is really where companies are thinking big and they're building beyond. These are just a few headlines that we pulled. So one of them from Bloomberg on the top left, Apple's hiring former BMW executives for a rebooted car project. A few years back, Project Titan within Apple was seen as this their internal electric car project or car of the future project. You heard a lot about it, but you never actually saw what an Apple car looks like. It's not something that exists and you can go out and purchase. It's not something you can pre-order. But this is still something that's way out there that they're planning for already. Same thing on the right with Toyota. It's a CNN article talking about Toyota's Weave community, which is essentially a smart city where they can test out AI, different kinds of robotics, self-driving vehicles. This is something that sounds like a very large, audacious project, but it's something that they've already projected out there. It's something that they have mock-ups and visuals of, really just drawings, but they don't have anything tangible yet. Same thing with below the MIT tech review. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction. A paralyzed man is challenging a monkey that's hardwired a Neuralink transplant in its brain to a game of Pong. Playing video games with animals while you're not able to actually move your limbs is something that sounds like far out imagination. But this is something that they're already testing. They've had press conferences showing how with an implant, you're able to control different technologies around you. And ultimately with Wired's, Google's Project Starline, which they announced at 2021's I.O., Google's I.O. Conference, they want to basically have telepresence and teleconferences in the sense that you're actually seeing almost a hologram of that user. I recommend looking up Starline after this because it's quite fascinating how such a subtle change can really help alleviate Zoom fatigue, like we're probably having now. It's a lot of videos on Zoom, but they're trying to find and make these big bets towards changing the game ultimately. And if you want to see what a 4 horizons for a company like Apple would look like, I put one together here. So on the left, you're seeing a lot of products that you may recognize. You're seeing iCloud, Apple TV, their retail stores, their online stores. And these are all products that are ultimately generating profits. This is something that anybody with an iPhone or anybody with access to the internet can tap in and use. Under something like growth, you're seeing things like Apple Arcade, where they're slowly trying to make steps towards a monthly subscription gaming platform. You're seeing things like Siri, which although it's been released for quite a while, they're still testing and they're still letting it grow out. It's not a finished established product, but it's something that's constantly in growth. Same with their health kit, same with the news application. They've been making big steps towards making FaceTime closer to almost a Zoom competitor. In experiments, you're seeing them playing with their own silicone, with their own chips, with the Apple M1 chip. You're seeing them play with other companies in home control for smart home technologies with Matter. You're seeing them play with AR as well and Siri shortcuts, which is the S at the bottom. Not everybody always recognizes that logo. And ultimately out in the 4th horizon for imagination, there's already talks about them with an AR headset. They've recently purchased a VR company. There's talks about the Apple car that we mentioned earlier. This is just a concept drawing, but obviously this is something that they're already discussing and they're already planning out in the 4th horizon, maybe for 5-10 years down the road. And this is sort of complementary to a lot of tools that they use within companies like Amazon, for example. So in this Inc. Article, they're discussing this ritual, powerful ritual that Jeff Bezos requires Amazon leaders to perform before they launch anything. And ultimately what this ritual is, it's to write a press release from the future. It's for those that are familiar with what a press release is, it's what you would essentially write down, answering all the questions for news articles to then start being written about whatever product you're working on. And these press releases from the future, ultimately, what it's letting you do is imagine this future, to project yourself out into the 4th horizon and pretend the product's already released. How does it run? What's the technology underlying it? That doesn't matter. What matters is placing yourself into that future horizon and able to really experience what does a customer journey look like? How does this impact people's lives? How are people reacting or interacting with your technology? One of my favorite stories from this actually came from something that was called Amazon Magic. Internally, it was called Amazon Magic, and the idea behind it is you push a button and whatever you wanted is instantly delivered to your doorstep. You push a button, I want this, you click it, a minute later, it shows up at your doorstep. They wrote a press release for this. They're talking about how it's extremely helpful for, the people at home. They can just push a button and they needed toilet paper, they needed a new webcam. It's instantly there for them to have. This Amazon magic was then built backwards into what we know as Amazon Prime, 2-day delivery, same day delivery in some cases, where you push a button on your smartphone, you choose what you want, you check out, and it's delivered to your doorstep within a day or two. So being able to project this imagination all the way out there and building backwards to today allows you to come up with these kinds of far out there ideas. This leads us to our next step, which is really an interactive activity. I just wanted to, if somebody could let me know how many people were actually in this, so we can know how to divide the groups. How many users were in the room?
Well, we have
Probably 3
16
groups of 4, something like that.
Okay, we can do 3 groups of 4. Perfect. And what this is basically an activity to build out a horizon roadmap. It takes about 10 minutes, and it's encouraged for everybody to use their technology. And I'll share a link to the Google slide in just a moment. But really what this is, it's finding what's established now, what's coming up soon, second horizon, what's being explored currently, which is third horizon, and what does the future hold for the fourth horizon. So the way the activity is going to work is I'll share a link. It's a Google slide. And based on what room number you're in, we'll have you then work with whatever company is on that. So you'll be working with either Apple or, Disney, Google. Here, actually, I have them over here. So you'd be working either with Amazon, Microsoft, Google, or Disney. I gave you 2 free ones over here. But ultimately, what you would do is just drag and drop these wherever you think they should go. And then for bottom here, you have these text entries that you can copy and paste, drag here, and then fill in with whatever technology you'd like. Now, to do this, you have full access. You can drag and drop. You're not going to mess up the format because it's as the background. And it's encouraged to look at what other teams are doing, what their thought processes are. So click over on Amazon on team 1, team 2, team 3, click through it and see what they're working on. And see if you can bring that back to what you're working on if you're stuck. And again, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And afterwards, we'll have a discussion. We'll break it down. We'll see how teams came up with different ideas and different horizons. And I'll just close off from there. So let me, I'll stop sharing my screen here.
I'm ready with the rooms.
Oh, you're ready with the rooms?
Yes.
Perfect. Let me drop this in the chat. So this is the Google slide link. You don't have to be logged in to access it. You can access it without having a Google account logged in. And once we've divvied up into the rooms, just jump into whatever room number that you would be in. So if you're in group 1, go to Amazon's fourth horizons. Also, just make sure to throw your names in the bottom just so we can talk about it and have a discussion. Sound good? And maybe 10 minutes. So right now it's 9:10. Let's meet back at 9:25. How does that sound?
Okay.
Perfect. So I'll be here answering questions in the chat if anyone has any questions.
Right. I added the Amazon store which should be the first one of the list.
Yeah, definitely. They're on profits. Definitely. I don't know what you can buy from Amazon today, but maybe growth is about maybe what Amazon is going to be releasing in the next day or two. What do you think about Amazon banking?
Banking.
Amazon money. Yeah, Amazon money. Like, I mean, if things are going to be autonomous, it's either they're going to be able to, to access your finances. You've got to be able to, like, so either way, connect your finances to them.
Right.
Amazon currency. Jeff is crazy like that. I mean, he wants to take over the world, right? That's what they all want to do. So imagine Amazon currency that you don't need to change anywhere you travel around the world.
Because I have seen some
Amazon, outlets everywhere.
Right. I have seen some other tech companies that have some division for banking and leasing. For example, Dell or HP.
Yeah.
They are helping with some tech projects, and they lease, but I haven't seen anything related to Amazon yet.
Just letting everybody know, we have, it's coming on the last minute here. We're gonna just hop back into the main room.
Okay.
All right.
And we'll just have a discussion with what you've done. It looks like amazing work and there's tons to extract and discuss. So can't wait. I'll be in the main room.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. Well,
I'm back.
I think we are bringing back our students now.
Let me share. There we go. I think everyone should be back soon. Overheard a lot of fun conversation and discussion, so can't wait to unpack and see everything everyone's done. Give it another few seconds.
No problem.
All right. Looks like we almost have everybody. Should be good to go. I think everyone's in. So first off, thank you everyone for doing the exercise. Normally we do this around a whiteboard and everyone has a marker and we're all scribbling on it. But we got to work with the situation we're in and technology we have. So on my screen here, I'm sharing the work that you've all done. Brilliant work. Honestly, excellent. And it's really interesting to sort of see how Amazon's working within these 4 horizons. When you're looking at Horizon 1, these are projects and products that already exist. And I told a few members in that other room, these are things that you can go and do today. I can go to an Amazon store today. I can use Amazon Prime on my phone, watch Amazon Video. If anyone has seen The Boys, it's an amazing show. And things like AWS and Alexa are technologies that, that's the profit drivers for Amazon. This is what their bread and butter is. When you're looking at growth, these are products that they're still working on, projects that they're still fine-tuning. It's not quite at the stage they want it yet, but it's something that's moving towards profit. Things like Amazon Music, things like their drone delivery, Amazon Go, the autonomous supermarkets. There you go into a supermarket, you scan your phone, you pick up an item you want, candy bar, lunch, walk out, and you don't have to interact with the cashier. It's all done through sensors. Things like experiments, Amazon's experimenting in VR. Jeff Bezos is launching himself, his brother, and a few other people into space on Blue Origin next month, I believe. And then you're looking out into the imagination, and these are things that have sort of been discussed or hinted at, but they're not actually released. The technology behind them is there, maybe, but it's still being researched. Actually, if someone can tell me what they mean by neuro delivery, that's interesting. Oh, sorry, can't hear you.
All right, yeah, just unmuted. I'm the one that put up there, and
Nice.
it's just an idea whereby, you know, you're sitting in the house and immediately you think something and Amazon just pops it up in front of you. All right.
I like that.
A crazy idea I had from my brother. You know, he's working for Amazon, like I said, and he said, you know, one of the ideas that was thrown around was something like that.
Yeah.
Like you're in the bathroom and you know, there's no paper, and then boom, you know, you think it and then it's delivered.
Yeah. And that's really like almost an extension of what Amazon Prime is now today. Rather than waiting 2 days, you just think it and it's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
So yeah, something like biotech thing.
And that's something very interesting. But that's also out there in the imagination with things like Neuralink, things where it's an implant that sort of allows you to interact with these technologies around you. And space delivery would be very interesting. You can just deliver payloads anywhere on Earth. Autonomous delivery, as was discussed, brilliant. Alexa coin, if they want to get into crypto, looks like everybody is nowadays. And this is just something I wanted to sort of share and just discuss, because what this does and what this activity ultimately does is it really helps companies and it helps teams really sort of almost take inventory of what they have. It helps them say, look, this is where we're thinking. This is the milestones that we have. These are the products and services that we're working on that we want to one day move over to the first horizon. And it's also an excellent shorthand if you're talking to a team and just saying, look, brilliant idea, that's a third horizon idea. Like, where do you think we can extract that? That's a fourth horizon idea. That's a second, that's a first. And it really allows us to have those kinds of conversations. And this is just one of, you know, countless tools that we've been using. So we have the Playbook for Strategic Foresight and Innovation. Tamara worked on that. It's brilliant. When I first saw it, I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen, just from a product design standpoint, because it really allowed people to have these kinds of conversations and have these kinds of discussions. We're also working on another book as well. We're launching it in the fall. It's 50 plus ways to convert visionary ideas, innovations, and missions into tomorrow's sustainable solutions and world-changing movements. Long story short, it's basically, how do you build moonshots? You have these ideas, you have these brilliant concepts. How do you make those into a reality? How do you bring them from the fourth horizon all the way down to the first horizon? And then launch. How do you launch these brilliant ideas? And we're also working on another course load, essentially. It's called Moonshots U. Essentially, it allows people to really learn these skills, learn these tools that ultimately help them bring it back to their teams, bring it back to their universities, bring it back to really wherever you want to work, even your own ideas, and help you become the evangelized, help you spread these kinds of ideas of forward-thinking, visionary concepts. We have a waiting list. It's just moonshots.world/u. You go there, you can drop your email. We'll keep you posted as to what's going on. And yeah, no, that's pretty much it for me. I think we're approaching the time, or we may have gone over by 5 minutes, but
Yeah, I've got one tiny question.
fire away.
All right, so I'm in Africa, in South Africa, and I'm looking to take this to like corporate South Africa and so forth. But you know, it looks like the companies that we've looked at or that we've played around with that you've mentioned, they are behemoths of companies. They're really big. They have the big bucks to like put towards imagination, towards experimentation. But with most of the companies that we have in Africa, they're not necessarily your multinational companies. And, you know, the challenge that a company in South Africa would be facing, or in Africa, is that they don't have the big bucks to put towards R&D. They're thinking, yes, we've got to be thinking today and perhaps maybe tomorrow. You know, so how do we circumvent something like that? Where, what can we do to answer that challenge?
Excellent question. The reason why we chose these larger companies, honestly, is just for the sake of conversation. It's really, we have these globally known companies. If I say what Amazon is, if I say what Apple or Microsoft is, people are able to sort of get an idea, even if they haven't experienced it too much. They sort of know, okay, Microsoft, they're working on Xbox, or like that might be their point of entry. Windows, that might be their point of entry. But when I'm saying this, it's really one thing to look at is ultimately if you separate sort of the capital that they have, these benefits that they have, if you strip it away from the equation and if you just look strictly at these 4 horizons, this is a tool that anyone can use. Like I've used this tool and similar tools in the book for projects at school where, it's literally I'm paying for it. And these are just concepts and ideas, but I'm using it really to have these discussions, to ask these right questions and ultimately build towards it. So just within that we're working on, we want and our goal and our mission is anyone can change the world. Anyone can use these ideas to do it. If you have funding, if you're pre-seed, if you just have an idea and you're sitting there, you can apply these tools to build out and work out onto a prototype. One example I love, I wish Bill was here to share it. He raised capital on this brilliant device. It's called a Moto. It's like a handheld, essentially a precursor to a smartphone. He got funding, he built a prototype, enough funding based on just a cardboard prototype. There's another, and one thing that we did when we were teaching this at Stanford was the prototypes that we have users build to not only interact with other people who are just out and about, but also to showcase their ideas. We told them, build a prototype that's, $0. Go grab sugar packets from a Starbucks and build it. Because ultimately, people are going to want to interact with the idea. What is it? If it's my favorite, and one of my favorite from the year that I took this class, someone was building an empathy robot, and they're just coming up with ideas and different circumstances for that. And ultimately, what she did was she put a cardboard box over herself and had a little flap here, and just went around to people, moved it down, and said, "How are you doing today?" And it wrote like empathy bot on the front. And it sounds kind of silly and it sounds kind of comical, but people were actually interacting with this cardboard person walking around as if they're interacting with an empathy robot. So these kinds of ideas, you can strip the funding, you can strip the paint from it. If an idea works, if an idea is something that can change and benefit people, you can take this and present it in a way, put it on a global scale, put it on sort of like a platform and showcase it and say, look, we don't have the future today. We may not have the funding and technology, but we can do it. All we need is XYZ.
So would you say that Moonshot then, at the end of the day, ultimately is about imagining a future and trying to build something as close as possible to it, with given all the limitations that people can actually understand today and buy into and want to invest into today?
Yep. No, we hit the nail right on the head there. It's one of our taglines is, dream big, build bigger. You have this imagination, you can push it all the way out to the outskirts of the horizon and move it back and build with what you have today. Build with the assets that you're able to build with today. When I'm working with teams, like they're teams from all over the world and they're at all different stages. Some have a napkin sketch. Some, I just jump on a Zoom call and they're waving their arms and explaining it. But ultimately, you can actually take this idea, take this concept, and then start building it today. It may not be the ultimate form that you want it to be in, but it's something that given time, given traction, can build to that.
All right.
Yeah. And I'd love to even take this offline if you want.
Yeah, no,
I guess we
definitely.
can share the LinkedIn information. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear about what teams you're encountering or working on and
Yeah.
seeing how we can help. Like, I'd love to see this.
Fantastic.
Thank you. No, excellent question. Excellent question. Were there any other questions I can answer?
Maybe we can take just one more, Arman. We are a little bit over the time.
Oh, very sorry, everybody. Yeah, sure. Let's take
No,
one
no
more
problem with
question. There's one.
that. Just one more question, maybe, or it's okay for everyone? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much for participating, for being with us this morning. Thank you, Arman, for a very nice and enlightening presentation. I think
Anytime.
this topic of moonshots is really something of the future and a great methodology to start thinking really big. And I think for not only for big companies, but for initial projects and for even for our personal path to developing our capabilities and stronger projects, I think is fantastic methodology. Thank you very much, Arman, for presenting this and leading the workshop. And thank you, students, for being with us. And also for our international participants, Neo, Google, and the rest. We had a very small but very diverse group tonight, this morning. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Arman,
everyone.
can you stay in the call for 2-3 minutes?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Arman. Thank you, Arman.